Yes.
Yes, I think
Yes.
so.
Thank you for a great presentation. My question, which was also going to make to the previous presenter, is how much you think the implementation has been influenced by the binding nature of the agreement. So, for example, I'm not an expert, so what I might say now doesn't make sense, but I feel that the climate change conventions are legally binding, and to what extent the commitments of the CBD are legally binding, and how does that affect implementation? Do we need to be more legally binding or not? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a very, very valid question. And actually, I think that the lawyers are a little bit undecisive about this. Mostly, we would say that a binding agreement is more likely to create implementation and give an impetus for implementation compared to a voluntary agreement. There are some examples of the opposites, but I think that in the terms of the CBD, it is a good thing. It is a binding agreement, actually, but it needs to be translated into national legislation. This is the case with all the things that we agree on a global scale. We can, be shamed and blamed if we don't follow up the obligations that we have agreed to. But there's not so much that you can't really be penalized for not following up. But it is a binding agreement, and once you've ratified something like this, you're also really saying that you are going to translate this into your national legislation. And we have seen that this is not so easy when you don't have really strict aims. Like now we have this 30%. So it sort of remains to be seen whether the nation states are able to translate these obligations into their national legislation. I know that the EU is on a very good way to do that. So it's going to be interesting to see how other countries are also, being able to translate these obligations into their national legislation. Yes, I myself think it's probably more worth when you have that. But at the end of the day, it's really up to the nation states, and you can't really force their hands. So even if it's legally binding. Was that more or less what you were thinking about?
Yes, thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
Yes, Miss Annette Schneider-Nielsen, please.
Yes, thank you very much for this presentation. Very insightful. What would you advise? I mean, if you were to advise the EU on what to do, and you could sort of advise us on 3 priorities or 2, what would they be?
I think I would just again say that there is a vacancy here in terms of leadership. And I know that the EU is taking the lead in a lot of the global environmental problem areas. So I guess you have a lot of it on your plate right now. But I think also that the EU has a long history of being among those, trying to be a pusher for a stronger CBD and a stronger biodiversity regime. And that's probably the best that you can do. So because these global negotiations, sometimes they really need leadership to get somewhere. And I think it's going to be interesting to see whether China is going to follow up its leadership ambitions, at least what they were saying that they had prior to the COP15. And we're still not, finished trying to analyze what really went down there and what's going to be the effect of all of this. But it still seems to me that there's a vacant spot there for leadership and to really try to push this agenda, because IPBES is so weak compared to IPCC, and and climate change is sort of taking all the attention. So for a researcher, looking into the biodiversity topic, it's sometimes a bit strange to see how little effort is put into this topic from the politicians, from the media. The attention is definitely going to climate, but I think I think it's very hard to visualize that one can be successful without the other, and this is probably what EU could do even more of an effort to put into that, because they're already doing quite a lot. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So maybe one more question. Do you think maybe one day the US will join again CBD?
well, at the moment, it doesn't seem very promising. I think it's important not to be too harsh on the US actually when it comes to this, because they have their environmental legislation is formulated in a way that when they ratify something like this, it's sort of directly applicable, and the NGOs can use it directly. So it's more sort of attention for the US to say something like that, and it's easier for a lot of us other countries that doesn't have this direct link between the ratification and to be used in the courts. So and the US is doing quite a lot domestically, but it's certainly hampering the CBD negotiations that they are not a real member. But they still have quite a lot of impact on what goes down there. So, but really, I don't know. It's been such a long time now. I don't see this happening very soon.
Thank you very much. I don't know if anyone has another question. Yes. Yes, Miss Creed. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Sonny Kruid, I intervened also in the previous presentation. Since you've put a lot of attention on ABS and DSI, I would be very interested to know what your expectations are of the open-ended working group. Maybe not only the one in November, but the ones coming up, and a potential outcome and a potential solution in the end for DSI. What are your views on that?
Mm. Oh, I wish I had a very strong answer to that. I think it's extremely interesting to follow what's happening now, because I've seen such a lot of implications and ramifications springing from the ABS regime. It's had more of an impact, I think, than people usually give it due. But of course, it's getting more and more difficult to really be working in an age of synthetic biology and DSI. It's sort of getting more and more left behind, it seems. But on the other hand, I should point out that Novozymes, this Nordic huge pharmaceutical company, we had some interviews with Novozymes a couple of years ago, and they were actually saying that there's synthetic biology, and you can access all of this material in the data banks, in all these global sampling banks around the world. But at the end of the day, we know that we need to go back to nature. So I think that was it sort of surprised me, coming from this big corporations they had even a lot of collections themselves, and they are always exploring enzymes and for how they're industrial and medicinal traits. But they were actually saying that we're never gonna stop being dependent on what's actually out there. And in that respect, developing countries could still have a little bit of leverage by being a host to the vast bulk of genetic material. So in that sense, ABS could grow up and become something a little bit stronger. But I think really the jury's out there. And but I think it's going to, you know, continue to hamper negotiations, because this is like the only victory that the global south ever had in a global negotiation like that. So they're not going to let go of that too easily. I think that's why they're still being listened to, even though technology is sort of saying that, you know, this is crazy. You should just forget about it. But yeah, that's how I see it. So thanks.
Thank you very much. So I think now we will continue. So thank you very much, Professor Randall, for this insightful presentation. It was really complementary with the one from Professor Bridgewater. So really good to have it. So now I will now continue with the presentation of CBD processes and mechanism on the CBD meetings conduct of business. So I will share my screen first. So is it working?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So please feel free to ask any question you may have during my presentation. And yeah.
Sorry, Pierre, we can see your next slide as well.
Ah, okay. So I will. Is it better now?
Still the same.
I think you have to click the cross to the very upper right.
Mm-hmm. I will share it differently. Sorry about that. Is it better now?
There's a black screen now.
So that's worse.
But maybe the previous the previous was okay. It's just we could see your next slide.
Okay. So it's time to go. Okay. So yeah. Sorry about that. I tried earlier and it was working, but so I will go. So please feel free to ask any question you may have during my presentation. And at the end of the presentation, I would like to share with you a short quiz on CBD processes and mechanism. So
we cannot see your screen, Pierre.
Ah. And
now we do.
Yes?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So this presentation is about, so we are going to dig into the concrete mechanism of the CBD. So how it works, how people can be involved in it. So first of all, I would like to present you the basic organization of the CBD. So once it has been negotiated, an international agreement lives on through the organization of the meeting of the parties. So here you see one type of institutional arrangement that may occur in international multilateral relationship. So the parties take part in the Conference of Parties and give mandates through the COP to the CBD bodies, so secretariat, subsidiary bodies, but also sometimes group of experts. So the authority comes directly from the parties and is expressed through the COP. Of course, subsidiary bodies would also have some autonomy, but only based on their initial mandates. So this type of institutional arrangement is the most commonly known today. I don't know if you know any other example, but we can think about, for example, international governmental institution like the UN or UNESCO, which are also based on treaty. But COP is an autonomous institutional agreement. As an autonomous institutional agreement emerged lately in the 17th. Actually, it was the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, CITES, that was the very first one to mention the word COP. So one of the big advantages of this format is that COP is more flexible and informal than a permanent IGO. So Conference of Parties is the supreme governing body for the convention. So it's basically the highest decision-making body. The COP has a variety of functions, act in relation to internal matters. So, for example, establishing subsidiary body, deciding an arrangement for meetings, adopting rule of procedure, but also contributing to the development of new obligation. So, for example, protocols or treaty amendment. COP needs also to supervise implementation and compliance of the treaty and sometimes act as representative of parties for external relation with other bodies. So concerning the CBD, the process revolves around biennial meetings of COPs or COP MOPs. So COP MOPs is a meeting of parties. So it's the official term to include other meeting of parties, like a meeting for the protocols, Nagoya Protocol and Cartagena Protocol. So we can't see a difference between the CBD and, for example, UNFCCC, because COP are only organized on biennial basis, and UNFCCC is annual basis. Subsidiary bodies are mini COP, so they have often the same rule of procedure, but they are working on specific mandates. So inside of the CBD, we have three subsidiary bodies. So the first one is a subsidiary body for scientific, technical, and technological advice. And it's the only subsidiary body established under the convention, so the oldest. And it's a body about scientific, technical, and technological matters. The second one is the subsidiary body on implementation. So that's the last one, established by a decision at the 12th COP meeting. It's about the implementation of the convention. And the last one is the ad hoc open-ended working group on Article 8G on related provision. So also established by a decision of a COP at the 4th meeting, so in 1998. and it's about the implementation of Article 8G of the Convention, so which is focused on knowledge, innovation, practice of indigenous and local communities. So bit different institutional arrangement. It's not really a subsidiary body officially, but it works like one subsidiary body. And the meetings are also the meetings of subsidiary bodies are between two meetings of COPs. So, for example, we will have a Substa meeting in 2 weeks and another one next year before the COP. So to summarize, I will now show this diagram based on the different stage of science policy interface. So Substa plays a role between knowledge and analysis and advice. COP is more related with decision making, and SBI is analyzing and advising on implementation, as well as the Substa, but through technical and scientific cooperation. That's the particularity of the topic. So technical and scientific cooperation can also be a form of implementation. Both COP and subsidiary bodies have bureau. So that's more precisely the international organization. Bureau are elected for 2 years. So the term of office of the president shall commence straight away, and the term of office of the vice president shall commence upon the closure of the meeting at which they are elected. So of course, we need to be careful on geographical balance. Of course, expertise are also something that parties are careful on. And it's the parties that designate candidates for the bureau. Usually, for the COP bureau, the president is coming from the hosting country of the conference of party. So, for example, for the last one, it was presidency, a Chinese presidency. I should mention that the president shall participate in the meeting in that capacity, is not anymore representative of a party. So it's quite a different function. Another very important player is the Secretariat. So generally speaking, the Secretariat provides services to the COP and subsidiary bodies. More specifically, duty, the Secretariat engage in activities such as conducting studies, preparing draft decision, receiving report. So here as well, you could see that the authority comes from the party through the COP. The Secretariat is like a facilitator of the whole process. So linking the work between the different bodies with the preparation of the technical note, draft decision, and also the conducting studies. So the role of the Secretariat is defined by Article 24. So you can see on the screen the different function of the Secretariat. So to arrange for on service meetings of the conference of parties, to perform the function assigned to it by any protocol. So that's something very general if any additional protocol can emerge, to prepare reports on the execution of the function, to coordinate with other relevant international body. And the secretariat, the executive secretary, is designated by parties. I don't know if you know actually the name of the current executive secretary. So it's David Cooper, the current executive secretary. So that was the bodies of the CBD. And now I will speak about the actors of the CBD. So as you already know, there are currently 196 parties, signatories of the Convention on Biological Diversity. So those states are those that we can call parties. And these parties are organized in informal regional group. So those regional groups are the official groups recognized by the UN. They reflect in part a shared ideology from the early day of the UN. Also today, the focus is on regional solidarity. The charter does not mention regional group, but they have become a fixed feature of the UN. So the regional group act principally as electoral for electoral reason, but of course each parties have the right to express for itself and vote for itself. So regional group are not the same as regional organization, for example. So like EU. EU is a regional organization which has an autonomy. It's more like an IGO with a legal personality. And for the EU can vote during the CBD meetings. But it's not the case for regional groups. It's more like an organization, so coordination between different parties because they shared specific interest, they shared specific problematics. So that's why this kind of informal regional groups exist. But there are also other actors besides the states. The CBD recognize some non-states actors, which are categorized as observers. So that's the big difference between states and non-state actors. Only the states have the legal statute, the legal right to be party, because of the principle of sovereignty. And because it's in our contemporary world, the states are recognized as the repositories of sovereignty, but maybe one day it could change. But observers could participate and have the right to speak, but not to vote. So observers are NGOs, IGOs, experts, indigenous people, companies, and are organized in major groups by the CBD. So you can see the major groups listed in my presentation. So for any major group, you have more or less formalized alliance, formalized organization. For example, for the University and Scientific Committee, it exists the consortium of scientific partners. For the youth community, there is also the Global Youth Alliance for Biodiversity, etc. So those groups are more or less organized and try to influence the negotiation and to complete what states have to say. So now we will speak about the organization of the meeting. So inside COP or subsidiary bodies meetings, there are some rules. So first of all, you can participate in different meetings format. The most important is the plenary. So the plenary is the basic format, the formal forum for discussion and decision making by parties to the convention. Plenary meetings are open to everyone, observer, states, organization, media, and other participants registered for the CBD session. Next to the plenary meeting, you have a small meeting format like contact group. Contact group are open-ended and established to conduct negotiation on specific agenda items. So generally speaking, it's about a difficulty, a negotiation difficulty. We cannot reach any consensus during the plenary session, and so parties agreed to organize a contact group meeting. So they are established by the COP and formally based on a proposal by the president, the chair of the subsidiary body, or a party, can be also a party. And it is very different to Friends of the Chair meeting, because this kind of meeting is convened by presiding officer only to advance negotiation on particularly difficult and politically sensitive issue. That's the main difference between the contact group and the Friend of the Chair meeting is that it's not an open-ended meeting, so a limited number of parties are invited to participate, and it's very closed, and only the delegation, national delegation, can participate to those meetings, and observer cannot be part of these kind of meetings. And I should also have mentioned side events meetings. That's not so official meetings. It's more informal small meetings organized by the parties or observer, where you could listen about substantive topics and discuss in a more informal way. So these kind of meetings are organized between the plenary session, and you can find always plenty of very interesting subject with experts that are trying to explain why these subjects are very important, and trying to convince parties that they should follow one direction about this kind of topics. So that's more informal type of meetings next to the more formal 3-1 I just presented you. So that's a diagram on how it's basically organized during the plenary meetings. So in the front, you will find chair composed with bureau members, but also with the CBD secretariat. And then states delegation in alphabetical order, and the observer sit behind the parties, so really behind the other parties. So the meeting rules, or it's sort of some basic meeting rules, but we can see with this rule that the role of the president is really important, because the president may decide which parties, which observer can speak or not. So each party or observer has the possibility to ask to speak. Most venues, plenary venues, have an electronic button for this purpose. So you have to click and ask to speak, and the secretariat with the president, the chair, may manage the request to speak and decide which party or observer can speak. That's another rule of procedure, very important, and I already mentioned that only the parties can have vote during the meeting. So each party shall have one vote. And what's interesting there, it's also that the rule is mentioning the role of the regional economic integration organization, like the EU. Like I mentioned earlier, the EU has the possibility to vote in place of their members. But of course, if the EU vote, the members cannot vote. And it's why the European coordination is needed. Next to the regional group coordination, you can have also specific EU coordination to decide what the vote will be. The vote will be on the topic on the agenda. So during the COP, EU is voting for EU members, generally speaking. And during SUBSTA, the rule is one country, one vote. That's something organized between the EU members. So there are also rules for observers. So to participate, it exists two ways. Be referenced as a delegation member. So you can be part of a delegation and still be an observer, or participate by your own. So you should notify a specific field of expertise, and you should register by the CBD secretariat. And of course, it's upon the president's choice to decide whether you or not could participate. So that's this slide is from a document entitled Guidelines on Conduct Expected of Participants in CBD Processes. And so you have a list of example of sort of participation for observers, so making short and concise verbal statements upon the invitation of the chair, holding pre-scheduled side events, so holding pre-scheduled press conference, making available relevant information materials, and setting up by pre-arrangement displays such as exhibition and poster. Yeah, it can be also exhibition next to the plenary session. And of course, yeah, it's the same as I mentioned before. To participate, the secretariat should be informed. And there are a clear rule about the qualification, so the expertise, the field expertise related to conservation and sustainable use of biological diversity to be able to participate. So now I will come to the last part of this presentation about the meetings document. That's very important. You may have already seen example of CBD documents, but it's not always really clear to understand what exactly is the objective of this document. And as a matter of fact, it exists a lot of different documents inside of the CBD process. First of all, a negotiation document. So that's the document that will be discussed during the plenary meetings or during contact group or friends of the chair meetings. Two different statutes. CRP are conference room papers are really the basic document that are negotiated. So it's not finalized. It's on the way to be clarified, to be decided, to be negotiated. L for limited distribution are the final documents during the negotiation. So it's somehow a document that has already reached consensus between the parties. And it's the final step before to become an official document, so an output of the CBD. And then regarding the official document, you have three types of official document. So DES is decision. So that's really the ruling document from the CBD. That's what parties decided. Recommendation, REC, is are the document type from the substaff, for example, because or from the SBI, because as I remind you, subsidiary bodies are bodies. The role of these subsidiary bodies are is to recommend to make recommendation to parties during the COP. So it's not really the same level of ruling as a decision document. And finally, INF is information. So that's a document that are put aside the decision document, the recommendation document, to inform parties about a topic. For example, it can be an expert report on a specific subject. So here you have an example of a CBD document. So on the top of that, you have the ID of the document. So CBD, COP is the name of the meeting. This is the type of the document, and after that the number. So first of all, 15 is the number of the meeting, so COP 15, and 4 is the number of the document, and you have of course the date. Original English, because the original documentation, the original document from the CBD are always in English, but as you may know, they are a translation in other UN official language. And then a reminder of the context. So yeah, conference of parties, 15 meetings, the number of the item in the agenda, because there are a lot of items in agenda CBD meetings. Who is speaking through the document? So here it's an example of COP document. So the conference of party is speaking, and a reminder of the context of the decision. So usually you have here mention of other previous decision on the same topic, on why the COP needs to try to find another consensus on this topic. That's an example of CBD document terminology. So as you know, we cannot see there, but we will see it later. You have kind of agreed terminology, negotiation terminology used by the parties. So acknowledge, welcome, take note, emphasis, invite, encourage, urge, call upon, request, demand, recommend, decide. So no surprise, this terminology are from the least engaging to the most engaging. Of course, decide is the most engaging, and acknowledge is the least engaging. Also, you can read the document with that in mind to understand the level of the consensus reached on the topic. So, of course, acknowledge and welcome, the consensus are not so strong. But recommend, decide, okay, we can go with it. So that's an example of a paragraph you may find on a CBD document. So, for example, you can see urge, invites, reaffirm, invites, decides. So decide, that's pretty good. That's a Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework should be used as strategic plan. So at the end of my presentation, thank you very much. I will stop my screen sharing, and I will now let you experience a small quiz that I prepared for you. Normally, you will have it on your screen, and you can answer directly the question. Is it working?
Yes, we can see it.
Normally, if you listen carefully this morning, it will not be a problem for you.
Pierre, in the meantime, we had a question in the Q&A whether the slides will be shared. And in the chat, there was a question about the US being part of the WEOC group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the presentation will be shared shortly after this session on the COP4CBD website. And the other question,
the other question is on the chat. It's about the US on the WEOC. I think I tried to answer it, but I'm not sure if you have anything to add.
Yeah, the US is not a party of the CBD. So in other this regional group I presented to you is the regional group for the whole UN system. So it can also concern other treaty, other agreements, and it's why the US is mentioned into the Western group.
I think Sane has a question for you, Pierre.
Yeah, just read it. I have another question regarding the different meeting. What exactly is the difference between a working group and a contact group? It's a very good question. Working group is something more on a permanent basis. So, for example, the ad hoc working group on AG is a kind of working group, and a contact group is only for one specific question during negotiation. So that's the difference between them. So I can see that everyone has the good answer for the first question. In what year was the Convention on Biological Diversity signed? It was in 1992, of course. For the second question, which proposal is not an objective of the convention? So the three objectives of the convention are conservation of biological diversity, fair and equitable sharing of the genetic resource benefits, and sustainable use of biological diversity. And the answer was respect Earth and life in all its diversity. But we can imagine that one day maybe it can be an objective. It's something right close with the general objective of the global biodiversity framework, live in harmony with nature. What is the name of the new CBD strategy? Of course, Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. How many parties are involved in the convention? So 196. What is the Conference of Parties? So it's a governing body of the convention and not an annual meeting that brings together all the parties, because for the CBD it's biannual, so it's only 2 years. There are 2 years between two meetings. What is not in the SBSTA mandate, review of progress of implementation and strengthening means of implementation, of course, because it's the mandate of the SBI, so the new subsidiary body on implementation, which is not a regional group of the CBD. It is the correct answer is European Union and associated country. Of course, it's a group itself. As I mentioned, it exists a coordination between EU countries, because EU can vote during the meeting, but it's not an official regional group references represented inside the UN system. What is the acronym used by the CBD to indicate that the document is approved? The right answer is L. So it's approved, but in the site of negotiation. So it's really the final document during the negotiation, and then it will become this decision document. Who is the current CBD secretary? Is Mr. David Cooper, of course. And when will be the next COP? Next year, 2024.